Hare Krishna. So welcome back. We'll start with this prayer. Om Adhyanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin Iti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschata Deshatarine जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्णा हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे. So welcome back. So we have been talking about this topic of what can we learn about relationships from Bhagavad Gita. And last few sessions in last 3-4 days, we have covered few topics, but we'll just recap on what we learned yesterday. Anyone wants to mention? Sudhir Prabhu?
Service is the key to strengthen any relationship.
So service is required. Without service, there is no relationship. We may actually do a lot of lip service, but that is not going to strengthen our relationship. It may actually work for some time, but if you really want to strengthen and form a long-term relationship, then we need to actually provide some service. Without service, there is no relationship. Anything else that anyone wants to share? Srinivas Prabhu?
Devotees must serve the Lord and his devotees as well.
Can you say that again, Mataji? Devotees needs to serve?
Devotees has to serve the Lord and his devotees as well.
Yes, of course. Service means we have to serve the devotees as well as we have to serve the devotees, serve the Lord and the devotees of the Lord. Anyone else has any other points to share? Suresh Prabhu?
Hare Krishna Prabhu. In the Bhagavad Gita verse we saw yesterday 1.21, we saw how the Lord is very keen to serve.
Yes, the Lord is very, very keen to serve, and He is very, very eager, and He is waiting for opportunities to reciprocate with His devotees.
Yeah.
So, very good. Thank you. So, Mantramulam Prabhu, you have raised your hand.
Yeah, we should become a honeybee instead of bee.
Yes, honeybee. We need to become an honeybee. We should get attracted towards the good qualities instead of becoming a bee, where the bees are only attracted towards the bad qualities or the garbage. So we should be we should absorb the good qualities of the others. We should glorify them and appreciate them. So we saw, as you have all mentioned, Lord Krishna is very eager to serve his devotees, and for serving his devotees, we saw that he became a chariot driver of Arjuna, and the service that is there, that actually improves the relationship, strengthens it, and if there is no service, there is no relationship. So service is the main key which opens the locks of relationships. And in the end, some of you, it looks like that you took the challenge that I gave you to appreciate 2 other people in your life, and then also serve at least 1 other person. So again, more than 40 devotees in various groups took that challenge, and they have appreciated 2 other people in their life, and it looks like they have also served 40 devotees or 40 people in their life. So congratulations, you are improving your relationships and you are strengthening your relationships. Well done. So today we will see yet another very important aspect of relationship. Many times we see that in our life, we feel that we don't get what we deserve. We may work very tirelessly at in office, or we may do lot of effort and do some service, and then we will see that the other people around us, and sometimes the devotees as well, they don't recognize that service, or they don't recognize that contribution, and you sometimes feel very undervalued or under recognized. But the problem is that when we become dependent on the appreciation or valuation that other people are doing, and they are recognizing us, then what happens is that we are giving away the power of our happiness to somebody else. That when someone else is appreciating us, or someone else is recognizing our work, only then we are becoming happy. So what can we do then? So the answer we are going to see from these two verses that we are going to see from Bhagavad Gita, chapter 13, and then one from chapter 16. And by this quality that we are going to talk about, by developing that quality, then we will be able to actually understand what to do. Yesterday we also said that this by serving others, the relationship will become strengthened. But what is required for offering service? What we need to give up for offering service, that also will be covered in this one quality that we are going to talk about. So let us see. So this verse is verse number 8 from chapter 13. Let's recite this. Amanitvam adambhitvam
Amanitva adambhitvam
ahimsa shantirarjavam
ahimsa shantirarjavam
acharyopasanam shaucham
acharyopasanam shaucham
stairyam atma vinigraha.
stairyam atma vinigraha.
Someone wants to read the translation? Yes, Mukesh bro. You have to unmute Prabhu first. Mukesh Prabhu,
Unmuted Prabhu.
is he speaking?
Okay.
Yeah, no.
Sorry, Prabhuji. Humility, pridelessness, non-violence, tolerance, simplicity, approaching a bona fide spiritual master, cleanliness, steadiness, self-control, all these are declared to be knowledge. And besides this, whatever there may be is ignorance.
Thank you, Prabhu. And we'll also recite this other verse that I was mentioning. This is 16.4. The chapter 16 talks about divine and demoniac natures. So the first three verses of this chapter talks about divine nature. And this fourth verse gives the demoniac nature, and it gives the qualities of demoniac people. So let's recite this verse as well. Dambho darpo abhimanascha
Dambho darpo abhimanascha
krodha parushamevacha
krodha parushamevacha
ajnanam abhijatasya
ajnanam abhijatasya
partha sampadam asurim.
partha sampadam asurim.
Imaja Mataji, can you read the translation, please?
Pride, arrogance, conceit, anger, harshness, and ignorance. These qualities belong to those of demoniac nature, O son of Pritha.
Yes, thank you very much. So you can easily see what quality I'm talking about. I'm talking about humility. Amanitvam, it was saying in the previous quality, in the previous verse, amanitvam. And adambhitvam was pridelessness, humility and pridelessness. And in this verse, it is talking about dambho. Dambha means pride. So pride is a demoniac quality. Arrogance is a demoniac quality. And both of these qualities comes from false ego. So ego means identity. And currently we already have false ego. That means we are identifying ourselves falsely. We are spirit souls, but we are identifying ourselves as this body. So that's a false ego. And comes from that these demoniac qualities, which are pride and arrogance. Pride and arrogance means we are putting ourselves in the center. It is all about I, me, and mine. Whereas humility is exactly opposite to the pride. Humility means we are, so Srila Prabhupada actually very wonderfully uh, defines that in the purport. So if someone wants to read that, very wonderful a definition of humility. Yes, Sandeep Prabhu?
Humility means that one should not be anxious to have the satisfaction of being honored by others.
Yeah, thank you, Prabhu. So the pride means that we are always wanting some respect from others. We are always hankering for it. Whereas humility means that one should not be anxious. So humility means that one is not anxious to have the satisfaction of being honored by others. So what happens when we are proud and arrogant? As I said, the focus is always on I, me, and mine. We want to be served by others. When we are proud and arrogant, we want to be served by others instead of wanting to serve others. We want to be respected by others instead of respecting others. We become envious of others when we see that they are progressing in their life. We want to be understood by others instead of understanding others. We want to talk about ourselves instead of actually listening what other people are saying. We want to be cared for by others instead of actually providing any care to others. We will blame others rather than admitting our mistakes, and we will hold on the anger rather than forgiving anyone. So this is what happens when we are very proud and arrogant. And what happens when we are very humble? It's exactly opposite. The focus is not on I, me, and mine. You are not at the center. So automatically what happens is we want to serve others instead of being served by others. We want to respect others instead of being respected by others. We become happy to see that others are actually improving and progressing and making progress in their life. And we want to understand others instead of having this desire to be understood by others. We want to listen instead of always talking about ourselves. We want to actually provide care to others. We want to care for others instead of being cared for by others. And we will be always forgiving others instead of actually holding the anger in our heart. And we'll admit our mistakes instead of blaming others. When there is a conflict, there is always this tendency to blame others. The fault is never mine. The fault is always this other person. But in humility, we'll be ready to admit the mistakes. A wise man has once said about admitting his own mistake. He said that when I was a young man, I wanted to change the world. I found it was difficult to do that. So I tried to change my nation. When I found I couldn't change the nation, I began to focus on my town. I couldn't even change my town. And as an older man, I tried to change my family. Now, as an old man, I realize the only thing I can change is myself. And suddenly I realize that if long ago, if I had changed myself, I could have made an impact on my family. My family and I could have made an impact on our town. And their impact could have changed the nation. And I could have indeed changed the world. So Srila Prabhupada actually did that. A single person with his humility, and he wanted to follow the orders of his spiritual master. With that desire, he went on and he did. He really indeed changed the world. So that is why humility is mentioned as divine quality. Because by just having humility, so many other things automatically comes. We are ready to serve others. We are ready to respect others. We are non-envious. We are understanding others. We are not holding grudges. We are uh, providing care. We are forgiving. So many things automatically come. So it is a divine quality, whereas the pride and arrogance is a demoniac quality. Now this quality is so important. Humility is so important that even Lord is attracted to a devotee who is very humble. Then, if such a quality which can attract even the supreme personality of Godhead, why will that not attract others in the relationship? It is obviously going to attract others as well, and it is going to make the relationship very strong. And if we are humble, then we'll be ready to serve, because then we are not in the center. If we are in the center, then we will want the entire universe to serve myself. But if we are humble, we will not be actually seeking for service. We will be ready to serve others. And then we talked about we should give more than we take. That is possible when the both the people in the relationship, both the devotees in the relationship are very humble. So then everyone will have the attitude, I want to give more than I want to take. We talked about appreciating and seeing good in others. That is possible when we are not in the center. So appreciating others is also possible when there is a humility. Tolerating others is also possible when we have humility. We were talking about introspecting ourselves and improving ourselves. The proud person doesn't even think that he has anything wrong in himself. So where is the question of improving himself? So introspection is also possible when there is humility. And this will make you very, very attractive, and your relationship will become very strong. So humility and respecting others, that is so powerful. So let's talk about a small story about humility and how it attracts everyone. This is one of my favorite stories. You may have noticed that I mentioned that about many stories, but that is true. So many stories are so wonderful, and these small, small stories can teach us so many things. So there was a monastery, and that was inhabited by some order of monks who had previously many branches of the monasteries. But now somehow or the other, there was only this one branch of the monastery was remaining. And there were only 5 monks which were remaining there in that monastery. And all of them were over 70 years old. The abbot, which is the head monk, was worried that how this order will be protected. It looks like that with 5 of us, this order of the monastery will be lost. And he was trying hard to recruit others, but to no avail. It was going in vain. No one was willing to join the monastery. The monastery was situated at the edge of the forest, and many people used to come for a picnic in the forest. And in that forest, there was also one hut where uh, sometimes one rabbi used to come. Rabbi is a Jewish priest, and he used to come and stay for some time. And this abbot used to know when the priest comes, and they had good friendship. And he used to go and talk to him about they used to talk to each other about various spiritual topics. So one fine day, he thought that I'm not able to figure out how to actually save this order. I should actually take some advice from the rabbi. Maybe he can give me some advice. How can I save this? So when the rabbi comes, he goes and visits, and they have a lot of good discussion about various deep spiritual topics. And then he was just about to leave. Then he remembers, sorry, the main purpose of coming here was that I wanted to find out and what I wanted to seek his advice. So he asks, can you give me any advice about how to save this order? So the rabbi says, actually, the problem is I'm also having the same problem. Nowadays, not a lot of people are coming to the synagogues, and I can't really help you. So Abbot becomes very morose, thinking that, oh, now there is no option. So while he's just about to go, the rabbi says that, but I know one thing. So he says, what is that? He says, I do know one thing, however, that one of you is the new Messiah. So he felt that it is quite cryptic answer. But he said, okay, that's all right. So he thinks about that, and just like thinking that, the abbot comes back to the monastery, and he explains this discussion to the other four monks which are there. And he explained to them that how this rabbi said that one of us is the new Masiha. And all the monks began thinking, I wonder which one of us is the new Masiha. Maybe it's brother Frederick. He's so strong-willed. Or maybe it is brother Peter. He's very shy and humble, always willing to lend a hand of help. And they began to think, I cannot be a Masiha. No, really, if God has to choose me as a Messiah, he might be very, very, very hard stretched to pick me. So thinking like this, all the monks began to act very nicely to each other, thinking that the other, one of the other four is the Masiha. At the same time, they also began to act in a very dignified way and very nicely, thinking that by chance, if I'm the Messiah, then I should actually behave properly. Otherwise, what people will say? And then the people who used to come to the forest for picnic, and they also used to come for darshan in the monastery, and they suddenly started feeling, and they suddenly started noticing that there is something changed here. The mood has been completely different. That the monks were acting very reverentially towards each other, and they seemed to have very, very nice relationship. They also started noticing that the monks themselves were very dignified, and some aura is emanating from them. The people started noticing the distinct change, and sometimes some of them were curious to find out how come these monks are very, very dignified, and they are respecting each other, and they are loving each other and caring for each other. And they will stop by and they will talk with the monks. So while talking like that, one man decided that he wanted to experience what the monks are experiencing, and he joined up. His friends came up to see what their friend is up to, and they were also got inspired, and they also joined up, and suddenly the monastery was built up again. So the moral of the story is, humility is very attractive. When we are humble, everything actually falls in place. We start respecting others, and the focus on us actually moves, and automatically we become attractive, and that strengthens our relationship. And as I mentioned earlier, this is how Srila Prabhupada built this worldwide organization of ISKCON, in which the entire world can live. Everyone was attracted by his purity. Everyone was attracted by his humility. And you could see that how wonderfully Srila Prabhupada was serving. In the beginning, he used to actually cook for all these hippies, and there were no one to help him. He himself used to actually cook, do chapatis for all of them. And it seems that every hippie used to eat 10 chapatis each. And he will, for hours, he will cook. Then he will actually run the program. He will give a small lecture. He will do kirtan. And then at the end of it, he will wash all the pots as well after feeding all of them. So this is possible only if a person has humility. If we do not have humility, we are not ready to serve. So please develop this quality of humility, which is divine, and even Lord Krishna is attracted to this quality. What to speak of others? Hare Krishna. If anyone has any questions or comments, then please let me know. Sandeep Prabhu?
Sandeep Prabhu, you have a question?
You have raised your hand?
Oh, it's from previous one, I think.
Sorry, Prabhuji. It was from previous, I guess. I didn't lower
Okay,
it.
fine. Sannivas Prabhu?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yes, Prabhuji, Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, humility, yeah, that's a very nice, that is a indeed.
Can you come closer to your microphone?
That's the main quality to develop.
But there is a generally people all over the world, or generally who are in normal lifestyle, they say humility is taken as an opportunity by others. So how that has to be really practiced? Because if you are being humble, as a businessman, if I'm a humble, then everyone will ask all the discounts and everything. I,
Okay. Humility doesn't mean that we think ourselves very small. So that is not the purpose or the meaning of humility. Humility means that we are not in the center. So we are, of course, the devotees put the Supreme Personality of Godhead in the center, and that is how they try to build the relationship. Whereas the pride and arrogance, actually, we put ourselves in the center. So because we are putting the Supreme Lord in the center, everything then belongs to the Supreme Lord. And the devotees are careful in actually protecting the properties of the property of the Supreme Lord. So it doesn't mean that we will just give up everything. So we can take the example of Bhagavad Gita, that Krishna did not ask Arjuna to give up the kingdom. He asked Arjuna to actually fight for the kingdom. So, but the consciousness is, don't do it for yourself. Do it as a service to me, because I am ordering you, you do it for me. And that becomes Bhakti Yoga. So humility doesn't mean that you allow people to take advantage of you. If that was the case, then Krishna wouldn't have said to Arjuna that you become humble and then also fight. He would have said that you become humble and then give up everything and just go to the jungle that you wanted to anyway go. In the first chapter, he was saying that I want to give up everything. I don't want to fight, and I better go to a jungle, and then that is how I will live my life, by begging. But that is not what Lord Krishna said to him. Humility doesn't mean that we think low of ourselves. Humility means we should think less of ourselves. So we should actually remove ourselves from our focus from ourselves. So um, so that is what we should do. As you said, that as a shopkeeper and you're running the shop, if you are running that as Krishna's representative, then you have to actually make sure that you are not taken advantage of, and you should protect Krishna's property properly.
and what is the best way of saying no, Prabhuji?
About can you specifically say about what to say no about?
Any situation like presenting that like in a humble way, saying that no, what an example? Yeah, that in many situations we don't want to hurt people, or I know that we say okay, yes, I'll do it, and then we don't do it, or we can't do it, and things are, we can't say no straight away. And what is the best way, means I'm not able to reject or say to them?
So if they are asking for something and you want to say no,
No,
yeah,
but in saying no, there will be a other reaction, other things, so which may not be favorable for the Krishna service. So in that way, we to keep that person in the loop. So sometimes you say yes, how to, I'm not taking an example into it, but generally
okay.
we get into those.
Generally, how to say no?
No,
If can a humble person say no?
yeah, how to have an humble person say no?
How does the humble no look like? Yeah. So humility doesn't mean that you cannot say no. Humility means that if, say, our spiritual master says that you wash pots, you are ready to wash pots. If our spiritual master says that do this service, that you speak in front of 10,000 people, then you can speak in front of 10,000 people. At that time, you cannot say to the spiritual master, no, Maharaj, I'm very humble. Don't ask me to speak in front of 10,000 people. What humility means is that you should be actually able to just do what the Lord wants, and that what Lord wants, we know from what our guru or the senior devotees are asking us to do. So when we want to say no, So that is the easiest way to do is that we can actually say that I am actually busy in a particular service. For example, you did not give me an example, so I'm not able to actually use that example to explain to you. Let's suppose somebody comes and says that I want some XYZ from you, some items for as a donation for some activity. Then if it is possible, if you actually relate, you can relate to that cause, then you can do it. Or you can just say that I have already donated a certain amount or whatever certain for this month or this year, so I'm not able to do it. And by you actually taking this, buying it and doing a donation, I will actually pass it on as a service to Krishna. So some of that you can do. If you can give me a specific example, probably I can help you specifically. Akhandani Prabhu, my very good friend. Yes, Prabhu.
So, Prabhuji, as practicing devotees, we know that being humble, that we have to be humble, and to the extent we have also heard that you fake it until you make it. So we still try to be humble and practice that with devotees. So, but when we go outside, to some extent, we forget that the concept of humility. But as a Krishna conscious person, we should be in and out same. So, how we can take that in our consciousness or in our nature, that how we can be similar everywhere?
Thank you, Prabhuji, for helping me to understand this difficult question. And I know that you know the answer, but for my purification, I'll try to actually say a few words.
Yeah, sure. Please.
So, Krishna actually has very clearly mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita, in the 3rd chapter, that we should not be mithyachari.
Yeah, exactly.
So, mithyachari means that we are trying to actually control our senses, but our mind is hovering on the sense objects. And because of that, then sooner or later, when people are not watching, at that time we will be breaking that principle. And that is why it is called mithyachar. So when we are actually trying to improve ourselves, if we actually try to take too big a step from what is our position, then that becomes a mithyachar or imitation. But if we try to follow the instructions, then what we will do is we will take baby steps. We know that we want to go in a particular direction, and we are taking small baby steps towards that direction. So that means we are not remaining where we are, but at the same time, we are not actually showing off to others what we are not. So it is better, for example, in Nectar of Devotion as well, Srila Prabhupada is mentioning that instead of directly jumping to say 16 rounds when people are coming new, they should just take a vow of chanting 2 rounds, 4 rounds every day and remain sincere on that, and then try to improve on top of it. Because what will happen is otherwise we'll go to 16 rounds, then we'll come to 0, then we'll go to again 12 rounds, 15 rounds, and again 16, and then 0, like that. We'll go up and down. And that is actually very disturbing for ourselves as well as for people around us. Whereas if we actually try to improve just baby steps, small steps, that whatever is your humility today, try to improve a little bit further. And generally, how we can do it is in situations where retrospectively, when we are introspecting, that in this particular situation, I feel that I was very proud or arrogant or whatever in that particular situation, then I should have done like this. So you're retrospectively thinking like this, and you're preparing yourself how you can behave if the similar situation comes the next time. And because your mind is prepared and you have already thought about it, it is possible that you may pass that situation when the next time it comes. And that way you can remain inside and out very strong and at the same time. And as you said, the fake it till make it, or this baby step that we want to take, we can start taking it in the devotee community, which is a bit safer than the wild west world that we will be going out. And that way this practice that we are doing, that is why we are saying that we are practicing. Just like doctors are practicing their profession, the devotees are also practicing. That is why we are doing sadhana bhakti, Vaidhi sadhana bhakti. So we are practicing, we are not perfect. And that is where we can practice the quality of humility in the devotee circle. Again, there as well, let's not take too much big step. Where we are, we try to practice a little bit further than that. And by making that perfection, then slowly, our level is increasing. And that level is not increasing only in devotee circle. It is increasing in us. The purity is coming in us. And then that will automatically reflect in the whether it is employment or whether it is other material relationships that we may have, and everywhere it will be the same. Does that help, Prabhu?
Thank you, Roji, very much. Very nice few points. Yeah, I got of it.
Hare
Thank
Krishna.
you.
If you want to appreciate all the other people in your life and want to strengthen your relationship, please feel free. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki
Jai.
jai.
Hi.
Srimad